Let's begin by sewing the front and back pieces. Here I use the same fabric for both the outer and inner front and back pieces. Let's sew the front. Align the front sides and sew at the pointed seam.
Sew the inner front and back pieces using the same method.
After completing the stitching, we spread the positions of the 4 pointed. Then we take out the front piece and a piece of lace with a soft stem. We sew the lace along the stitching line of the neckline.
After measuring, it appears as shown.
Then we take out the other lining piece. Align the front of the outer and inner parts at the neckline. Then place the outer part with the lace we just sewed along the line where we sewed the lace. Sew the neckline positions of the inner and outer parts together. After measuring, we will make notches around the neckline. Be careful not to cut the thread. Once we finish cutting, we can attach the sleeves. We'll set this part aside for now. Let's handle the sleeves first. We need to leave some extra at the bottom edge of the sleeves. I left about 7 or 8 millimeters because we need to fold the elastic inward. Then we have 6 lines like this on the sleeve. Draw it in the same position.
We need to fold the first line and the fourth line.
First, fold the fourth line. Just fold along this line to the back side. Here I'm using 6 small pens, so I simply scrape it with my finger. If you're using a water-based pen, after folding, we align the edge of this line. Align it with the bottom line. Then draw a 1 millimeter visible line on the front.
After measuring, it looks like this.
Then fold the first line to align with the third line. It's the same. Just remove a line to secure it.
After pulling out the 2 lines, it should look like this.
Then fold the bottom edge inward along the stitch line. Remove a line to hold it in place. Here we need to attach an elastic. My elastic band is approximately, so I pulled back about 1 to 5 millimeters of thread. Then we use a tool for threading elastic bands. Thread the elastic band through. After the elastic band is pulled over, let's first secure this end with a few stitches.
Then tighten the other end.
Secure this side with a few stitches. I have provided a reference value for the tightness dimensions. Everyone can take a look. Next, we will gather the upper part of the sleeve. Here I'm just pulling a thread because this part is relatively short. So at the beginning, I just directly did a backstitch. And at the end, do not backstitch. Tighten this baseline and pull out the fold. The dimensions after pulling out the fold match the adjusted position. Let's compare it this way first. Then we can make a slight adjustment. Once they are roughly consistent,
then we will align the sleeves with the front of the body.
Align the starting points while sewing. Adjust the vertical alignment of the curves as you sew.
Next, attach the other sleeve. Once both sleeves are finished,
I have fully unfolded this piece The upper part is the outer fabric. The 3 pieces at the bottom. Then we will sew the side seam of the lining under this sleeve. The front sides are sewn together.
Both sides are the same. Next, we will sew the side seams of the front and back pieces with the side seams of the sleeves.
Similarly, sew them with the right sides
Stitching on the
facing
other
each
side is done the same way. After sewing, finish the front openings at both underarm positions.
Then move to the position of the back opening on the front. Begin sewing down from the neckline. Sew straight towards the bottom edge. Then continue sewing up to the neckline. When sewing to the bottom edge, you will encounter several style to both sides. Then at the right angle positions of the 4 corners.
Then from the
both
contour
vertically
position
and
of the
horizontally.
lining,
Turn this jacket to the front. Neaten the edges and corners for a tidy After the ironing is complete, if it's a sister skilled in using it's advisable to sew bright thread all around this edge. Will make the garment look smoother. And then there's the sleeve of the top. There are 2 ways to present it. One way is to present it normally like it's this. Relatively puffy with Another way is that we are at this place. Grab a bag and tie a butterfly. The bag I'm using here is just a small strip cut from the same fabric, about 5 millimeters wide. Everyone can also use ribbon or some pretty lace or something to tie it up. We use the method from the teaching material folder. Of sewing using an embroidery Sew this embroidery hoop onto the lining. Check the snap button on the back. This top is now complete. Before making the skirt, let's first work on the strap part. The first thing we will make is the flutter sleeve. Here we will start by folding the fabric. This edge with the crease helps it to be a bit smoother. Then align the flutter sleeve pattern with the crease position. Draw the arc lines at the edges. Then let me explain a bit before drawing this For example, the shape I'm using is horizontal. Normally, it should be a sculpture. This shape is accurate. However, due to my reference diagram, this part is only this long. If I were to carve and draw this diagram, its length is insufficient, so I can only draw it horizontally. However, the result of this extraction, but if everyone can create sculptures, it's still better to draw vertically. Leave a 5 millimeters margin at the back edge.
Then we cut it out. Then use the same method to cut off another flying sleeve. Next, let's proceed to pull it.
But before we pull, let me explain something. What is the length after it has been pulled? Here we take out the strap part. The fabric I'm using for the strap is a bit longer than what is shown in the width is not the style needs to be added by oneself. But the style on both sides, I've basically grown some.
In fact, it's this length.
Except for the parts that extend out on all both sides. All of these are extra reserved There is a reserved section here. It is to make our operation so that it can be easier to handle. It's too short. It's hard to operate. If you've already prepared it in advance, you haven't seen this section of the video. Then you can just the size you cut, that's fine. Because the excess part itself, we will eventually have to trim it down. The size after we finish folding the sleeves. It corresponds to the position between the 2 points and the length drawing. After we complete the folds of the should be calculated based on the 2 ends and not the small pointed angles outside the style line. The dimensions of this position and this position pulling must here match. I'm using 2 lines for pulling. It is located 2 millimeters to the right and left. Each should draw a line. Do not backstitch when pulling the thread. Also, widen the thread spacing. I'm using number 4 here.
Then simultaneously pull the 2 bottom lines closer. Extract this fold.
This end feels tight, making it difficult. Let's pull the bottom line of the other end again.
And let's adjust the size after it has been folded.
It's perfectly positioned between these 2 points.
After making the adjustments, let's compare it.
This has already been mentioned earlier. What is aligned is the top of the other side is the same. Next, we will sew the band and the fly sleeve right sides together. The sewing position is the alignment position we just discussed. This section at the front and back does not need to be sewn.
After pulling it out, turn it to the front to check for any issues with this fold.
If there are no issues, you can remove the basting line
in the direction of the 4 equal sides.
Flip the bound section over to the bottom edge. Fold the style lines on both sides inward
then
towards the
it
reverse
towards
side.
the center like this again.
Once folded this way, our flying sleeves will be enclosed in the middle. Flip it inside out. At this position, stitch a visible line to secure because we have reserved some length for this strap in the front. Especially the initial segment of the domestic machine start the stitches a bit lower down as long as we ensure it's actual including length. The 5 millimeter positioning. This thread count is fine as it is.
If there are sisters like me with extra dimensions reserved,
we can trim it a bit after we finish 5 millimeters in the front and back. If no extra dimensions are reserved, this is how it looks when it's finally aligned.
Then we use the same method to complete another strap.
Next, we take out the part of the waistband. Now we pull out the mark on one of the waistbands. The center point here is the midpoint after folding the waistband in half. Then we refer to the image of the waist position in the reference folder and mark the remaining 4 reference points. Then take out another piece of waist material. This piece of material does not need marking points. Face each other directly like Sew this seam on the right side. Here we need to insert the strap while sewing. The strap should be placed between the 2 pieces of fabric. This is to help everyone understand
I'll
better.
demonstrate its position at the top now.
Sew from the very front to the first marker point. Then, after inserting the strap, continue sewing. Stop approximately 1 centimeter before the second point. Pull the other end of the strap over flat like this. The middle must remain straight. The marker point is located at the bottom. In other words, strap. This strap is situated between these 2 marker points. Continue driving forward. Don't worry about the center point. Just drive past Continue driving until you reach the 4th Then we repeat the positions of the first and second markers. Use the same method to place the strap into the car. Also, just a quick reminder, this refers to our strap. Aren't we ultimately a distinct line for the front clear line on top of it? Use this side of the clear line as the front of the strap.
As we start sewing now,
just put this strap with the front side facing up. There was a part of the sewing process, so I've patched up half of the fabric used here is different. But the steps are the same. Everyone should follow the method I mentioned earlier. Sewing the waistline, just put this strap in and sew it together.
After we finish sewing, we will turn it over and check.
Is there any problem?
Is the orientation correct?
If there are no issues with everything, let's start by making an apron. First, base it on the lace dimensions. Cut it directly. This part doesn't need any decoration. Then we fold the fabric in half. I have already finished curling it. Draw its 5mm guideline. This 5mm guideline is only on the open side. Then we use this guideline as a reference. At 2mm on its left and 2 all vehicles are pulling. Do not reverse stitch while pulling the thread. First, loosen it slightly. I'm using 4 here.
After pulling, we simultaneously tighten the 2 bottom lines. Take out this fold.
After drawing it out, we wrap it around the apron like this. Make a rough comparison of its size.
Check if the length is suitable.
If it's suitable, we can start sewing. If it doesn't feel quite right, continue to make adjustments. After making the adjustments, we will sew the edge on the front side of the stitch count for this apron. I also draw on the front side of the fabric. This makes it convenient.
I align it while sewing.
Is this style neat? Then we sew along this style line.
At this moment, the edge of the drawing position of the pattern is to the position of the fold is to
Don't mix it up.
After completing the drawing,
let's check this side as well. Is there any issue with the folded measurements? If there are no issues, we will remove this folded line. After finishing the extraction, this area may have some, especially for smaller sizes. We can first focus on the design. Make some cuts in these curved sections. After cutting the edges, it will become quite flat. Then we take out the other piece of fabric for the apron. I haven't cut the other piece. It's just a large piece of fabric. Sew it directly like this. After pulling it tight, we'll go directly along the line. We can sew along the line we marked earlier. Do not sew the straight part.
Next,
at the top.
We'll use the cut apron fabric above as a reference.
Trim off the excess part. Then make some notches in the curved areas. After making the notches, start from the top. Turn it to the front side.
Press it firmly to smooth out the apron.
You can also do this at the edges. Make sure to go all the way to the seam to smooth it out. After removing the seam, we will use the straight line above as fold it in half.
Find its center point.
Make a mark on the back of the apron. Then take out the waistband that was prepared earlier. The center point of our waistband. Wasn't there a mark here before? Within the position of the seat line, let's remove the fixed arrangement. This is facing directly opposite. Next, let's deal with the skirt. Here we need 2 layers for the skirt. One is the outer fabric. The outer fabric I use here is this patterned piece. And the lining is this white one. Their sizes are all the same. Everyone should follow the dimensions just add the design and cut it out yourself. Let's start by handling the line. This vertical line here is an extra one I drew. No need to worry about it. The line at the bottom is our baseline. Use this baseline as the reference. Move up 1.5 centimeters. Draw the upper line parallel to this one. Then we will first establish this baseline. Fold inward towards the back side.
Draw a line on it to secure it.
You can do it like this before sewing. First, iron it before drawing the line.
After securing it, the front looks like this.
Then do not touch this. Directly take out another piece of tablecloth is facing up. Then create this seam line at the bottom edge. It should match the 1.5 centimeters. This line in this initial overlap vertically. Note that this refers to the seam of the bottom edge. Then we sew along the seam of the fabric's bottom edge.
After removing it, we flip the tablecloth over.
Once flipped up, it looks like this. There is a section left for the internal balance. Then we'll make some adjustments. This part is where the stylistic features are created on the fabric.
Just make sure to cut along the style line.
Both sides should be identical. You need to cut both sides. Be careful while cutting. Don't cut the surface fabric.
We are cutting this part because
later, we will need it this way. Sew the sides together from the front. Then we sew up to the previous point. When we cut at this position,
we need to push it inward a bit.
The reason we cut it open is that we can't sew on. Place it a bit further inside and just follow the stitching line to sew. Please wait a moment when the official remind you again. And that's because of the dress I'm currently making. It features a pattern because this pattern is already quite detailed. So I didn't add any more embellishments. If you want to add decorative lace, then you need to do this step. Sew it directly onto it. After sewing it well, proceed to the next step. We turn back to this area of the fabric's reverse. Here we need to position the waist area of the fabric and make a stitch for the gathering. Be careful with this gathering stitch. We only need to sew it on. Don't rush to pull the drawstring. The positions of the two sides in the video. These are the waist positions of the outer and lining also fabrics. Features a double drawstring. How to pull the double drawstring. I've mentioned this several times. I won't repeat it here. I've already pulled the lines on both sides. Then we shouldn't pull it immediately. Instead, we should first address the stitching position where the lining and outer fabric are joined. Add another elastic strap. We stitch this elastic band. Leave 1 centimeter unstitched. Leave 1 centimeter inside the finish. You can make a mark like I did. Then the length of the elastic band. I provided a reference length on everyone can take a look. When you start sewing officially, this elastic band can be placed a bit higher to sew while working. While pulling the elastic band, you place it in the right position. Then when you pull it tight, it is
just
likely
pull off
that
the strap.
So we leave some space at the front.
But when we start driving,
it starts from the mark we just mentioned.
The beginning
Let's first backstitch a few times to then pull the elastic band tight. Align it with the underlying stitches.
I've pulled it to the tightest point here.
We need to remember this. The last centimeter shouldn't stop when the sewing reaches the marker point at the bottom. Make a few back stitches, finish, then cut off the excess elastic at both ends.
Then we can proceed with the previous folding process.
Simultaneously tighten both. Extract the fold. One side is difficult to pull the other end. It is also about drawing all the folds of the ceremonial fabric and the surface fabric must be drawn smoothly. It is consistent with the length of our waistband. The position of the folds in the ceremonial fabric according to the size of the waistband. Once it's organized, this piece on the front of the waistband, sew it together with the outer fabric of the skirt.
This is where the front sides meet.
Sew the edge seam along the line.
Adjust the pleats' evenness while sewing. After sewing, flip it over to check.
Check for any issues. If there are no issues, you can remove the previously drawn folding
Then trim
line.
the seam a bit.
We just sewed the waistline.
Trim the seam at the belt position and the seam that is sewn to the hem. You can also trim it a little. Just leave about 3 millimeters.
Here we turn the fabric to the front like this.
Fold the lining upwards. Align it with the other waist part.
Sew along this seam line.
After sewing, you can also turn it to the front side.
Check if there are any issues with confirm that there are no issues. You should also remove this basting line. You can sew this piece that we just stitched give earlier. It a little trim. Just leave it about 3 millimeters. Also, if our stitching is done correctly here, it will form a complete circle. This area in the middle is completely open. If there aren't any mistakes, then we can proceed to the next step.
Sew the two sides.
Sew the sides here. We start from the waist and move down. The top part is where we just stitch the straps. You can just follow the stitching line down. However, we need to be mindful of something.
Didn't we cut a small
sewing.
loop at the beginning?
As we sew towards the lower half and approach
Make
this
sure
position,
to tuck this part in a bit.
then continue to finish sewing. Additionally, this part should be measured all the way to the outer and inner sections. You don't need to worry about this. Just get off the vehicle normally. It's normal for some components to be a bit loose. Then stitch the other side of the vehicle. We need to leave a reverse clasp on this side. Just leave it in the middle position, about 3 centimeters. Then sew down from the waist position as well. When sewing down to the bottom, don't forget to cut the part for the small button. Stuff it inside and then
After the sewing is done, we will trim the 4 corners at the top, bottom, left, and right.
Be careful not to cut into the seams while trimming. Flip the fabric to the front from the opening.
After flipping it over, we first check this position on both sides.
This means it is correct. just like in the video. If it looks different from this, then it means that when you were sewing to this position, you accidentally stitched it in. Confirm that both positions are okay.
We will iron the clothes thoroughly.
The memory on this phone is a bit slow. Recently, while the teacher was filming a video, the following steps stopped. I will use another piece of fabric to fix it. The steps are the same, only the fabric used. This is how it looks after I organized it. Then we need to draw a line on both sides. The bottom of this skirt should also be folded inward.
The other side should be treated the same way.
On my side, there is a reverse opening. Just organize it properly, and you can here I didn't use the long needle technique. The girls have done a good job removing the visible thread. It is recommended to do this on both the upper and take away sides. This will help make it a bit smooth. Lastly, we need to discuss the button. I suggest placing one button at the top, then place one button in the middle there's section. A button at the very end. Once we finish the snap buttons, you can also add details based on your preferences. Small decorations. Now we will demonstrate how to do the long stitch. First, the thread end is concealed. We need to bring the needle out, align with this exit point, and insert the needle into another piece of fabric. See it directly from this point? This point is the same as that point.
Then we go in from here to this place.
The distance between the needle entrance and exit here, when you do it, you can make it a little denser. Next, on this piece of cloth below, insert the needle at the same point. The needle exits about 3 millimeters away.
The next step is also repetitive.
It means to keep alternating between
Once
up and
the
down.
reverse stitching is completed, you can pull the thread tight.
Simply close the stitches and tie a knot.
Then thread this needle into the fabric.
Just pull the thread a bit tighter and it will be concealed.
Here we are going to make a sewing box for repairing the cage. First, we will make a few notches on this edge.
This is on the lining fabric. Do not make the notches too deep.
Fold it inward. Inner fold. Use your nails to scrape one side of the fold for shaping. After finishing the inner fold, we take the inner part of our cuff, the seam of the cuff, pull it slightly outward.
Align it with the inner part. You can use your body to stabilize it. There is a pointed seam at the top. Then align it with the pointed seam of the outer part.
There is a side seam here.
The bottom side seam is aligned with the inner side seam. Be careful not to poke your hand.
Now let's sew it together. When we sew to the outer part, it must be on this seam. You really shouldn't sew into the fabric on its surface.
Otherwise, you'll see it when you flip it over from the front.
I am currently on this seam.
It means a stitch has gone into the surface seam.
Then we bring the needle to it.
Directly fold the inner part that we have prepared.
Make a stitch at the edge. If the sisters are skilled with the long needle method, they can use it. It will look a bit nicer.
If you don't use it properly, there's nothing wrong with using this method.
A stitch passes through. The top is the lining, then the bottom is the seam of the outer layer.
Just repeat this way.
Okay.
After finishing a circle of stitching,
Just tie a knot here. If we stitch onto the top, you will see the thread at the edge here.
so we can't sew onto the outer part. We can only sew onto the seams.
And that's how it's done. Next, we will make socks. The reason I didn't mention the sewing position from the beginning is
It's because if your sewing position is on knitted fabric,
you fold it like this.
when this part is very short, it's difficult to sew with a home sewing machine.
Let's leave a bit more for it first. After the car is finished, we will go pick it up to make the stitches on our socks more secure. Let's fold it down first. You can take a look. Mark these points. This is the point. On the other side, this is the front. Mark the points on the edge of the sock. Look, this is the front. Then we draw the line on the back side. After marking, fold it along this line. The place where we insert the needle is exactly where we marked. We first backstitch a couple of times to secure it. Then continue sewing forward.
When the car reaches this point, then move the car forward a bit and also reverse one stitch.
Okay, we've now arrived at this new point. Then reverse 2 stitches, stop, continue moving forward. Walk to this point, then stop again. Stop, stop, keep walking forward, keep walking forward. Walk to this point, then stop again. It's the same as going back 1 or 2 stitches. Continue walking.
Continue walking.
Walk to this point.
Then continue the previous operation to rewind.
Let's take a look now. Why do I need to rewind the needle at this point? When we cut later,
We will cut along this edge like this
to create a small seam for cutting.
We have times when we use a back stitch. We often wear and remove it this way.
It will be more secure. This thread won't come undone. Now that the line has been drawn out, let's do some cutting. Just like this, straight.
Cut off the excess stitching.
Don't cut this thread.
Three to 4 millimeters of this thread sticking out is fine.
If you cut it this short from the start, and then when you go to trim it, the edges won't be as neat. Now, after we've finished cutting, fold it like this. These are all the reverse sides.
The lined areas are all the reverse sides. In addition to the front, We made a few marks.
The socks are folded in half. This line runs along the edge. Remove the seam.
After sewing, sew along the edge outward at approximately 3 to 4 millimeters.
Cut the socks.
The areas with a more significant curvature. You need to make another cut for the
Be careful
opening.
not to cut into the seams.
Also avoid cutting too deep. After you finish cutting,
Turn the whole sock inside
The
out.
socks are done.
let's take a look now. This sock has been heat pressed. I have heat pressed it on the side here. The side is oriented this way.
Iron it directly here, and this is ironed on the front.
Just do it like this. The side seam is at the back, and then iron it flat like this. Then regarding my socks, it is around the ankle area. It is inherently quite narrow.
If you like it a little wider,
You can refer to our earlier issue.
that Christmas drawings design, that pair of matching socks.
Good.